I set my wine glass down carefully, making sure it didn't clink too loud against my mom's good china. The question hung in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. "So, Emma, when are you finally going to settle down?" My mom smiled across the table. That same smile she'd been giving me since I was 12 and didn't make the honor roll like my stepsister Olivia did. "Olivia's engagement party was absolutely beautiful last month. Everyone keeps asking about you." "I already did," I said quietly. The chatter around the Christmas table stopped. My stepdad, Richard, paused mid-reach for the mashed potatoes. Olivia looked up from her phone, her new engagement ring catching the light from the chandelier. My mom's smile froze in place. "What do you mean? You already did?" Mom's voice had that edge to it, the one that appeared whenever I said something that didn't fit her version of our family story. "I got married," I said, 3 years ago, September 14th. It was a Saturday." The silence stretched out. I could hear the antique clock in the hallway ticking, the one Richard's mother had left him, the one Olivia would inherit someday because she was his real daughter. "That's not funny, Emma." Mom's knuckles were white around her fork. "I'm not joking." I looked at each of them. Small ceremony. 40 guests. Sent invitations to everyone at this table. Standard RSVP. Never heard back from any of you. Richard cleared his throat. "Emma, we never received any wedding invitations. Don't you think we would have—" "I sent them," I interrupted. "Certified mail, tracked delivery. All 3 arrived and were signed for." My husband Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. I'd warned him this dinner might go badly. He'd insisted on coming anyway, said he wanted to see the people who'd made me believe I wasn't worth showing up for. "You're lying," Olivia said flatly. "Why would you make something like that up?" "I'm not making it up. The invitations were delivered on July 10th, 3 years ago, 2 months before the wedding. Plenty of time to RSVP. Mom shook her head slowly. "Emma, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is hurtful. If you'd gotten married, don't you think we would have known? We're your family." The word family stuck in my throat like a fishbone. Family. The same family that forgot my college graduation because it was the same weekend as Olivia's sorority formal. The same family that didn't visit me in the hospital when I had my appendix out because Richard was helping Olivia move into her new apartment. The same family that never asked why I stopped coming around as often after I turned 21. Marcus spoke up for the first time. "Mr. Patterson, Mrs. Patterson, I understand this is shocking, but Emma's telling the truth. We got married at the Botanical Gardens. Her college roommate was maid of honor. My brother was best man. We have photos. We have a marriage certificate. And we have proof the invitations were delivered." "Proof?" Olivia laughed, but it sounded hollow. "What proof?" I pulled out my phone. I'd prepared for this, though part of me had hoped I wouldn't need to. I'd hoped that maybe, just maybe, they'd remember, or admit they'd forgotten, or at least act like they cared that they'd missed one of the most important days of my life. "Here's the tracking information from the Postal Service." I turned my phone so they could all see. 3 packages. Your address, Mom, Richard's office, and Olivia's apartment, the one on Maple Street. All delivered between 10 and 11 a.m. on July 10th, all signed for. I watched my mother's face. She was good at lying, at rewriting history until it fit the story she wanted to tell, but she couldn't fake the flicker of recognition in her eyes. "Let me see that." Richard reached for my phone. I handed it to him, watched him scroll through the delivery confirmations. His jaw tightened. "These could be doctored." "They're not," Marcus said evenly. "We can call the Postal Service right now if you'd like, or check with your building's front desk. They keep security footage for 3 years. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mom was staring at her plate. Olivia had gone very still. "I remember that day," I continued. "I'd been quiet for so long in this family, always trying not to take up too much space, always trying not to need too much. But I was done with that version of myself. I called you that evening, Mom, to make sure you got it. You said you'd been busy all day, hadn't checked the mail. You'd look at it tomorrow. I called you the next week. You said you'd found some junk mail but nothing important. That's not Mom started. I called 14 times over the next month. 14 times. You kept saying you hadn't seen anything." Richard, I called your office 6 times. Your secretary kept saying she'd make sure you got my messages. Olivia, you blocked my number after the 3rd call. Do you remember why? Olivia's face had gone pale. She wasn't looking at anyone. You said I was harassing you, that you were busy planning your career and didn't have time for my drama. That's the word you used, drama. I stood up slowly. The chair scraped against Mom's polished hardwood floors, the floors I'd helped her pick out when she and Richard bought this house. I wasn't invited to move in, of course. There wasn't room, even though they had 4 bedrooms. Olivia needed her own space, and Richard needed a home office, and they needed a guest room for Richard's parents when they visited. I slept on a friend's couch my senior year of high school. Did you know that? I kept my clothes in a duffel bag, ate dinner at the school cafeteria or skipped it, told everyone my family lived too far away for me to commute, because it was easier than explaining that there just wasn't space for me in the family anymore. Emma, that's not fair, Mom said, but her voice was weak. You could have stayed. You chose to leave. I chose? I laughed, and it came out sharper than I meant. I was 17. You and Richard moved into this house 2 weeks before my senior year started. Olivia got the bigger bedroom because she was going to community college locally and would need it longer. Richard's parents got the guest room. There was a pull-out couch in the basement, but Richard needed that space for his woodworking hobby. Where exactly was I supposed to stay, Mom? We would have figured something out. I waited 3 days for you to figure something out. Then my friend Jess's mom called and said I could stay with them. You seemed relieved. That's not true. Mom was crying now, but I'd seen her cry before. She cried at Olivia's high school graduation. She cried at Olivia's college acceptance. She cried at Olivia's engagement party. I couldn't remember the last time she'd cried over me. Marcus stood up beside me, solid and steady. I'd met him 2 years after I moved out. He was the first person who ever made me feel like I wasn't too much or not enough. I was just right exactly as I was. I need you to understand something, I said. I didn't come here tonight to ambush you. I came because you called me 3 weeks ago, Mom. You said you wanted to reconnect, that you'd been thinking about how we'd drifted apart. You said family was important, especially around the holidays. Mom nodded slowly. But that's not why you called, is it? What are you talking about? Olivia's engagement ended. Last week, she moved back in here 4 days ago, and suddenly, you remembered I exist. The silence that followed was different, heavier. Olivia's head snapped up. How did you know that? Jess still lives 2 blocks from here. She sees things, people talk. Richard's face had turned red. Now wait just a minute. No, I was surprised by how calm I sounded. I'm done waiting. I waited for you to notice me when I made honor roll sophomore year. I waited for you to show up at my track meets. I waited for you to ask about my college plans or help me move into my dorm. I waited for you to acknowledge my wedding invitation. I waited for you to wonder why I stopped trying. Marcus handed me my coat. I put it on, and the simple act of it felt like armor. What happened to the invitations, I asked. The ones that were delivered and signed for. Where did they go? Nobody answered. But I watched Olivia's eyes flick toward Mom, and I watched Mom's jaw tighten, and I understood. I'd suspected, but now I knew. You threw them away, I said. It wasn't a question. Mom's silence was answer enough. Why? Because. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Because I thought you were just being spiteful. After you moved out, you barely came around. You didn't call on holidays. You missed Olivia's graduation party. I thought you were trying to force us to pay attention to you by making up some elaborate fake wedding. I stared at her. You thought I was making it up. You'd been so angry with us, and then you call saying you're getting married to someone we've never met, insisting we come to some ceremony in 3 months. It seemed like another way to create drama, to make everything about you when Olivia was going through a hard time with her internship applications. So you threw away the invitations. All 3 of them. I didn't want to reward bad behavior. Mom's words came out mechanical, like she'd practiced them, like she'd been telling herself this story for 3 years until she believed it. And you never thought to ask, I said. Not once in 3 years. You never wondered if maybe, just maybe, it was real. If maybe you'd made a mistake. I tried calling you. You left 3 voicemails in 3 years, 1 on my birthday, 2 at Christmas. I returned every call. You never picked up. Olivia finally spoke. I didn't throw anything away. I turned to her. But you signed for a package on July 10th. At your apartment. The postal service has your signature. Maybe I did, but I didn't know what it was. Probably thought it was something from your drama phase. Remember when you were doing community theater? Always sending us tickets to shows nobody wanted to see. I did remember. I'd been in 6 productions my junior and senior year of high school. None of them came to a single one. It was an invitation to my wedding, Olivia. You opened it, read it, and did nothing. She shrugged. Like Mom said, we thought you were being dramatic. Marcus's hand on my shoulder was the only thing keeping me grounded. I looked at these 3 people, the ones who were supposed to be my family, and felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, just a vast, echoing distance. I didn't come here to make you feel guilty, I said finally. I came because I needed to know. I needed to understand if you actually didn't know, or if you chose not to know. And now I do. Emma, wait! Mom stood up. We can fix this. We can have a celebration now. It's not too late. It is, though. I picked up my purse. It's 3 years too late. You had so many chances. Every call I made before the wedding, every time I asked if you'd seen the mail, every time I tried to talk to you and you said you were too busy. And then after, when I stopped trying, you had 3 years to wonder why. 3 years to reach out. 3 years to ask. But you didn't, Marcus added quietly. Not until Olivia moved back home. That's not fair, Richard said, standing up. We didn't know. You chose not to know. I looked at each of them one last time. There's a difference. We're still your family, Mom said desperately. No. I shook my head. Family shows up. Family asks questions when something doesn't make sense. Family doesn't throw away wedding invitations because they assume the worst about you. Family doesn't forget you exist for 3 years and then call when they need something. We never said we needed. Olivia moved back in. You're covering her rent, her credit card bills, her car payments, just like you covered her college tuition while I took out loans. Just like you paid for her car while I worked 2 jobs to buy my own. Just like you helped with her apartment deposit while I slept on floors and couches. And now she needs more support, and suddenly you remember you have another daughter. The truth of it hung in the room like a spotlight nobody could look away from. You always had money for Olivia. You always had time for Olivia. You always had space for Olivia. And I tried so hard not to need those things. I tried to be easy, to be independent, to not be a burden. And I thought maybe that was the problem. Maybe if I needed less, I'd be worth more to you. But that wasn't it, was it? Because when I sent those invitations, when I asked you to show up for me just once, you couldn't even do that. You looked at my invitation and decided I was being dramatic. You decided I wasn't worth the benefit of the doubt. I moved toward the door. Marcus followed. I hope Olivia's okay, I said, and I meant it. I hope she finds whatever she needs. I hope you all find what you're looking for, but you're not going to find it with me anymore. Emma, please. Mom was fully crying now. Don't do this. Don't cut us off like this. I'm not cutting you off. I opened the door, felt the cold December air rush in. You cut me off a long time ago. I'm just finally accepting it. What do you want from us? Richard asked. An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. We're sorry. Is that what you need to hear? I looked back at him. 3 years ago, yes. An apology would have meant everything, but I don't need it anymore. I don't need anything from you. Then why come here tonight? Why tell us at all? Because I needed to see your faces. I needed to know if you'd even care. And now I know. Marcus opened the car door for me. I slid into the passenger seat and didn't look back at the house. The house that never felt like home. The family that never felt like mine. You okay? Marcus asked, starting the engine. I nodded. Yeah, I actually am. We drove in silence for a while. The Christmas lights in the neighborhood blurred past. All those picture-perfect houses with their picture-perfect families inside. Or maybe they weren't perfect. Maybe they were all figuring it out as they went, same as everyone else. Thank you for being there, I said. For coming with me, even though I said it would probably be awful. Marcus smiled. That's what husbands are for. Besides, I wanted to finally meet them. Wanted to understand. And do you? Understand? He thought about it. Not really. But I understand you better. And I'm proud of you. For what? For showing up. For telling the truth. For not needing them to validate you anymore. I leaned back against the headrest. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it. 3 missed calls from Mom already. 2 texts from Olivia. I turned my phone face down. When we got home, our home, the apartment we'd carefully furnished together, I made tea while Marcus fed our cat. Simple, domestic, real. This was family. The people who chose to stay. The people who showed up when you needed them and even when you didn't, just because they loved being around you. Later that night, curled up on the couch with Marcus and a terrible holiday movie neither of us was really watching, my phone rang again. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Are you going to listen to it? Marcus asked. Maybe tomorrow. Or maybe not. I don't know. You don't have to decide right now. I know. I pulled the blanket tighter around us. But I think I already have decided. I've spent so much of my life waiting for them to choose me, trying to earn something that should have been free. And I'm tired, Marcus. I'm so tired of trying. Then stop trying. He kissed the top of my head. You don't owe them anything. Not your time, not your energy, not your forgiveness. You get to choose what you do next. What do you think I should do? Doesn't matter what I think. What do you want? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Not what I should want, or what would make me the bigger person, or what would fix things. What did I actually want? I want to stop checking my phone hoping they'll call. I want to stop wondering if this year will be different. I want to stop making excuses for why they didn't show up. I want to be done, then be done. Is that allowed? Can I just be done? He pulled back to look at me. Emma, you can do whatever you want. They don't get to dictate your choices anymore. That's the whole point of being an adult. You get to decide who's in your life and who isn't. I felt something release in my chest, some knot I'd been carrying for years. My phone buzzed again. Another text. I picked it up this time, read it. Mom, please call me. We need to talk about this. You can't just walk away from your family like this. I showed Marcus. He raised an eyebrow. Watch you. I blocked the number, then Olivia's, then Richard's. It felt like taking off a heavy coat I'd been wearing too long. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. Marcus was already up, making breakfast. I could smell coffee and bacon. My phone had 7 voicemails from a number I didn't recognize. I deleted them without listening. I knew who it was. Over the next week, they tried other ways. Richard's work email, Olivia's friend who I'd gone to high school with, even my mom's sister, my Aunt Rachel, who I'd always liked. I answered Aunt Rachel's call. Emma, honey, your mom is devastated. She wants to make this right. Did she tell you what happened? I asked. The real version? She said there was some confusion about a wedding invitation. There was no confusion. They received the invitations. They threw them away because they assumed I was lying for attention. They chose not to believe me. They chose not to come. And then they chose not to ask about it for 3 years. Aunt Rachel was quiet. Oh, yeah. Oh, she shouldn't have done that. No, she shouldn't have. But she did, and she only cares now because she needs something from me. That's not Aunt Rachel stopped, is it? Olivia moved back in. Mom needs help managing her. She thought I'd be available to pick up the slack like I always did, but I'm not available anymore. I'm done being the backup plan. I'm sorry, Emma. Aunt Rachel's voice was soft. I didn't know it was like that for you. I should have paid more attention. It's not your fault. Maybe not. But I could have done better by you. We all could have. I appreciated that. The acknowledgement. But it didn't change anything. January came. Then February. The calls stopped. The texts stopped. I changed my email address just to be sure. Marcus and I started planning a trip to Japan. Something we'd always talked about. We looked at apartments with extra bedrooms, talked about maybe starting a family someday. We hosted dinners with friends, real friends, the kind who remembered your birthday without Facebook reminding them. One night in March, I was going through old boxes, cleaning out the storage unit we'd been renting. I found my wedding album. Haven't looked at it in a while. Marcus sat down next to me. Want company? We flipped through it together. There we were, younger, nervous, happy. There was my college roommate, Sarah, crying during the ceremony. There was Marcus's brother making a terrible speech at the reception. There were our friends, a community college professor who'd mentored me, Marcus's co-workers, neighbors, people who'd chosen to show up. There was one empty table in the back. I'd reserved it just in case they came even though they never RSVP'd, just in case they changed their minds. The table stayed empty. I cried, looking at that table. Not because I was sad, but because I could finally see it clearly. I'd left space for people who were never going to fill it. I'd been doing that my whole life. Marcus held me while I cried. When I was done, I felt empty in a good way. Clean. We should renew our vows, I said suddenly. 5-year anniversary. Something small, just us and the people who actually care. Marcus smiled. I'd love that. And this time, I won't leave any empty tables. Deal. I closed the album. Put it back in the box. Maybe I'd look at it again someday, maybe I wouldn't. But either way, I was done letting it make me sad. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Emma? It was Olivia. How did you get this number? Does it matter? Look, I need to talk to you. I don't think we have anything to talk about. Just listen, okay? Mom's sick. Really sick. She's in the hospital. They think it might be her heart. I felt something twist in my chest, but it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't fear or grief. It was just tired resignation. I'm sorry to hear that. That's it? You're sorry? She's your mother, Emma. Is she? Because mothers show up to their daughters' weddings. Mothers don't throw away invitations and pretend they never existed. Mothers don't ignore you for 3 years and then expect you to come running when it's convenient. She made a mistake. She knows that now. She wants to see you. She wants to apologize. She had 3 years to apologize. She didn't know how to reach you. You blocked all of us. I gave you 3 years of chances before I blocked anyone. You had every opportunity. You chose not to take it. So what? You're just gonna let her die without ever speaking to her again? I hope she doesn't die. I really do. But whether I speak to her or not isn't going to change her medical situation. And I'm not gonna let guilt manipulate me into going back to a relationship that was never healthy. You're so selfish. You know that? You've always been selfish. I hung up. Blocked that number too. Marcus looked up from his book. Everything okay? My mom's in the hospital. Heart problems, apparently. Are you going to go? I thought about it. Really examined how I felt. Was there guilt? A little. Was there sadness? Sure. But was there any part of me that wanted to rush to her bedside and pretend the last 3 years, the last 10 years, the last 20 years hadn't happened? No. No, I said. I'm not. Marcus nodded. Okay. That's it? Just okay? He smiled. Emma, I love you. I trust you to know what's right for you. If you wanted to go, I'd drive you. If you don't want to go, I'll be here. Either way, I'm with you. And that was family. That was what it was supposed to look like. Not obligation or guilt or manipulation, just love. Just showing up. Just being there. My mom didn't die. Olivia texted me 2 weeks later from yet another number to let me know. She'd had a minor heart attack, needed a stent, was doing fine. The text ended with, I hope you're happy. She kept asking for you and you couldn't even bother to show up. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Summer came. Marcus got a promotion. We adopted a dog. We flew to Japan and spent 2 weeks eating amazing food and seeing temples and getting delightfully lost in Tokyo. We came home tired and happy and full of stories. No one from my old family reached out. Maybe they finally got the message. Maybe they were still angry. Maybe they just didn't care anymore. It didn't matter. I'd stopped waiting for them to change. I'd changed instead. I built a life. I found people who chose me every single day. I learned that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about showing up. It's about believing someone when they tell you something important. It's about making space and keeping space and honoring that space. And I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who will never see you clearly. Not because you don't love them, but because you love yourself more. I'm Emma. I'm 32 years old. I've been married for 5 years to a man who thinks checking delivery logs is a normal response to family drama. I have a dog who snores and a cat who judges. I have friends who remember my birthday and coworkers who ask about my weekend and neighbors who wave when they see me. I have a life I built from scratch, with no help, with no safety net, with nothing but my own determination to be more than the person my family thought I was. And you know what? It's enough. I'm enough. I always was. The people who can't see that don't deserve to be in my story anymore. This is my happily ever after. Not the one my mom imagined for me. Not the one that looks good in Christmas cards or Facebook posts. Just mine. Quiet and real and chosen. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.